Starting off at number 10, it's the booing of a buoy. Now, one thing I want to make absolutely clear is that I would never, ever condone public disapproval of someone unless it's to their face or behind their back. If ever there was a player's name which was designed to be booed, it was a buoy. You got a feel for him, though. He tries bloody hard and he's got a lovely smile. The booing did, however, seem to work, as Emmanuel improved greatly towards the end of the season. So, if there's a moral to this story, I suppose it's that booing works. So let's see a whole load more of it next year.
Their booing incident was possibly one of the worst things that I have experienced as a fan watching. I was horrified. Again, you're talking about a small proportion who lost it totally. I mean, first of all, you know, it was, I don't think he could explain to you what happened with his passing, you know, during that 15-minute period.
I don't think I've ever seen a player have a worse 25 minutes. It was really incredible. And the point where he collided inexplicably with Kolo Touré. He'd already had 4 or 5 touches before that, and you could, it was quite near where I sit, and you could sort of imagine it happening, but you thought, well, it won't happen because they're 2 professional footballers. But Touré kept running and Eboué didn't move until...
Potentially it was alerting Wenger, because possibly he couldn't actually see just how poor he was on that day. He was an accident waiting to happen. So, you know, maybe that was their way of actually telling Wenger, take him off. He is, you know, you're better off with 10 men rather than playing with 11 with Eboué.
We pay more in England than fans of other big English clubs. I think Chelsea's the only comparison, probably. So I think it was frustration. It was frustration with the whole situation, with the new stadium, with the thinness of the squad, with all the things going on in the boardroom that we don't understand and don't know about. I think a lot of things were released in that moment.
As it happened, he was the fella whose fault it was, and so he was booed on, and people kept booing him until he was taken off again.
Arsene did exactly what he did with Kieran Gibbs in the Champions League semi-final. He knew how affected it was getting to him. You know, some people think that players aren't affected by the noise. They know, they can pick up the vibes, believe you me. And to see him come off, I mean, I did think Adebayor, I think it was, who ran to him, who realised how upset he was. Now, I was at the training ground about a week after that, and he was still upset.
On that afternoon, at the time, I thought Arsenal supporters, you know, and it wasn't the whole ground or anything like that, but basically, I thought it was an absolute disgrace.
It's bad enough with the away fans rubbishing our players without our own fans doing it. No, we just didn't get it together. A bit of overconfidence, a bit of tiredness, perhaps especially from Cesc, and it just wasn't there.
He's not been the most popular of players. I think that people remember other things about him. There've been the odd dive, some, a couple of disgraceful dives actually, and the odd foul that looks accidental. So I think that was a part of it, that it was directed at him specifically.
Trust me, all the fans out there, they're entitled to their opinion. They pay their money. I haven't got a problem with that, showing their sort of disapproval. But booing a player never made him play any better, because you feel more tense, you feel apprehensive, you're worried about your first touch, you're worried about your movement. It actually slows you down because you're not confident in yourself.
You know, the sort of players that one needs to be in a modern, successful, European scale team are almost like machines. They've got to be consistent. They've got to do it week in, week out. They can't lower their game for the last 10 minutes of the match. They can't really make any mistakes whatsoever. And it's not easy to determine whether those players fit into that category or not until you actually throw them into the cauldron of a match.
If there's a scapegoat on the pitch, they'll get the boos, and then it all changes, doesn't it? I mean, that's the thing about football. A month later, Eboué's playing well, and cries of, we've only come to see Eboué,
Come to see Eboué,
come to see a boo, you've only come to see a boo, That's one.
And then I've come to admire him enormously because he's got out there, he's trained, he's come back out, he gives 100%. He's another one with a great deal of talent. And okay, you're talking about these fine margins. Will he really fulfill all that he has as regards his power and his running? And, you know, will he pick up the ability to be a little bit more consistent with his passing and maybe score some more goals? I think that's really likely.